Hey everybody, it's me Stacy here at Scrapbooking Made Simple, and it's time for our next Saturday with Stacy YouTube class number 374. I really should know that, shouldn't I? I really should. All right, I have got a technique-based class for you. You may want to take notes. I'll put on my pause face super fast, so if you need to go grab a pencil and paper to at least jot down this YouTube number, you can do that. Are you ready? Here's my pause face. Okay, we're back. So I have got the next collection of Simply Defined Kaleidoscope Layering Stencils for you. I have got 2 new sets of verses for you. I've got a definite technique for you that you may have already thought about. You may not have thought about. And for those of you who are new to crafting, we're going to start from the beginning and get a little more difficult and a little more difficult as the class goes on. But if you're brand new to this hobby, these are the classes for you. They're full length, there's no commercials, and they're totally free. So if you've got questions on how to craft, come spend some time with us. And I think by the time we're done, you're going to feel, hey, I can do this. And yes, you can. Now, I have winter chicken dinner to talk about before I get into the stencils. And we're just going to dive right into the winter chicken dinner, because then I want to tell you about how one of the stencils came to be. Are we ready? So our first winter chicken dinner is, all right then. So for those of you who always ask, does it have to be a proper name on my YouTube? You know, when I leave a comment, does it have to be my proper name because my YouTube username is some abstract, arbitrary, whatever you decided it to be? No, it does not, and this proves it. I think that this is not the person's whole first name and last name. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling I'm not. So our first winner is Simply Shanta. Hello, Simply Shanta. Is that you? Because if it is, you, my dear, are a winner chicken dinner here at Scrapbooking Made Simple. Gosh, I hope we're able to find you in the online, in our online database, so I can add your $25 in. But if not, you need to send us an email through YouTube from your Simply Shanta and say, it's me, and my name is. I'll try. Keep your fingers crossed. Our second winner chicken dinner is, because we always do 2, is Linda. Linda, I'm going with Aschenbach. Linda Aschenbach? Aschenbach? Linda, if that's you, does it really matter how I said your last name? Of course not. You're a winner chicken dinner and have a $25 gift certificate coming your way too. In fact, yours is already in your account. Congratulations. Spend it on anything you want, Simply Shanta and Linda. And for the rest of you, if you want a chance to be a winner chicken dinner here at Scrapbooking Made Simple, it's so easy. You must subscribe. There's a little heart that says SMS right down here. Run your cursor over it and click subscribe. I am doing all I can to get to 100,000 followers. Truly all I can. Help a girl out. Then you can leave a comment on this YouTube, and the comment can be anything you want to talk about as long as it's kind. So you can tell us about your day, your family, your job, your pets, whatever makes your heart happy as long as it's kind. We will then approve the comment. You'll be able to then see it, and from that we pick 2 winners every week randomly through a software that we have. You just never know when it's going to be your turn. So Linda and Simply Shanta never thought it was going to be their turn, but it is. So that means we have to do the winner chicken dinner dance. Hello, I did not forget. Are you ready? You're a winner chicken dinner. You're a winner chicken dinner. Wahoo, ka-choo. For you. Congratulations, girls. Enjoy spending your money and find something wonderful that you would have never bought for yourself online in our store. That this is the opportunity you can have that one thing that you just couldn't justify before. Now you don't have to. All right, so I have two new stencils for you today. They are my layering stencils, and we're gonna start pretty simple with them, but I wanted to kind of tell you how one of the stencils came to be. I am much younger than my siblings, 10 years younger than my siblings. So when I was 6, one of them was 16, and our family was like the hub of the neighborhood. Everybody would come over to our house and hang out and play and whatever. We were the kind of the hub of the street. So Terry Sanks from next door and Dino Giacomazzi and his family and Howard Melnikoff, and I mean the Addams family, the kids would all come to our house. And I was young because, again, if I was 6, one of them was 16, one of my siblings was 16, and I have 2 sisters and a brother, and they are less than 3 years apart. Less than 3 years apart. I think my 2 sisters are 11 months and 26 days apart, something crazy like that. So I was allowed to watch, but not participate in whatever they were doing or really even speak. I mean, let's be clear. My teenage brothers and sisters were like, you know, you can sit there, but just be quiet. So when everybody would come over, when they would all have friends come over, my dad would come out and he would play a game called Bang with them. And I, again, was not allowed to play, but okay. And they played in the living room. Now the living room was the room we weren't allowed to go into. When you walked through the front door of my house growing up, you walked right into the living room. The living room was kind of off to the side, and then there was stairs going up, and it was the pretty room, although it had green shag carpet and this really ivory and green couch and this really long, low, very low coffee table. And it had the stereo for the family, but it wasn't just a stereo. It was a console. It was a piece of furniture. It was like 8 feet long. So that was the room that we just kind of walked through to get to the kitchen and the family room where we were allowed to hang out. But when my siblings had their friends over, there were so many of them that they would all go into the living room with my dad, and they would play Bang. Now my dad would line them all up in a row, right next to each other, shoulder to shoulder. And the concept of Bang is that you weren't allowed to, you had to say Bang anytime you got to a multiple of 7 or the number had 7 in it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Bang. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, Bang. 15, 16, Bang. 18, 19, 20, Bang. And it would go down the line, and you'd have to go in order. And if you had to think too long, you were out. You had to be ready to go, and you would be shocked how many, I mean, you probably wouldn't, but somebody would say 13, and then the next person would say Bang, and then the very next person would say 14. It was hilarious. We would sit there, they would play this for, you know, an hour or two, and as the people got knocked out, the line got smaller and smaller and smaller until there was just 2 people left. And it was good, clean fun. Back when there was good, clean fun. And again, I wasn't allowed to play, so I had to sit there and be quiet. I could giggle and laugh with everybody else, but I wasn't allowed to give hints or go, and what I remember is that my dad would line them up in front of that console, the stereo console, and above the stereo console was a picture. The pictures in my parents' house, now I'm 52, so I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. Oh man. Some of the pictures were like, what were they thinking now that I'm older? But there was a picture in the living room that was bold florals. Bold florals, like in your face floral. And it was from that one of the stencils comes from today. Bold florals and big colors. So when I think about that time, those times that they would play Bang, because it was always the same, they'd always line up, and well, there was also 7-Up game, but 7-Up, 7-Pop, I forget. Same thing, you couldn't say a certain word. But good, clean fun. I just remember vividly that big floral picture that was like, wow. And I really don't know if my mom or my dad picked it out. I don't know, and I will never know since they have both passed away. And you know, by the time I was 8, my brothers and sisters had all left the house. Again, my parents had me much, much later in life. And in fact, when my mom found out she was pregnant with me, she threw a plate at my dad. In that moment, I don't think she was overly thrilled, but in the long run, I'm sure she was very happy. And years and years and years later, when I became an adult and we were talking about it, I finally said, Mom, I got news for you. It took 2 to have me. You just can't throw the plate at Dad. It took 2 of you. So anyway, it was such a wonderful memory, and thinking about all of my brothers and sisters' friends lining up, and I had such a crush on Don. Oh my gosh, my sister was dating him, and I just thought he was dreamy. And then she dated a guy named Rick, and he drove a motorcycle, and I would follow them around. Oh, I was such a nuisance, but I was a kid. Anyway, I would sit there and I would watch them all have a great time, and good, clean fun is still to be had. Go ahead, stand up a whole bunch of people and have them play bang. Remember, it's either the number 7 or the word 7 in the number, or a multiple of 7. And see how easy it is. Okay, so I'm gonna tilt down and we're gonna get started for today. I've got big, bold colors for you. In fact, I chose Hero Arts inks. They're bold colors. That's what they're called, bold colors, because, well, the florals, I wanted the girls to do the florals with bold colors, so we did that. And we're going to start pretty darn simple and then get progressively harder. So those of you who are brand new to crafting, you can do this. I promise you, you can do this. And hopefully those of you who have been around for ages, maybe you see something here that you had forgotten about, or maybe you hadn't thought about doing. So hopefully that inspires you to pull out your stuff and get playing. All right, I'm gonna tilt on down for today and we're gonna get going. And go ahead, you try and play bang and see how easy it is. Okay, down I go. Bye everybody. Oh, down, 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 down. And then let's zoom, 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 zoom. Zoom, zoom, zoom. I just taped a new intro to our channel, our station, asking people to subscribe. We'll have to see how I do. And that way, a little bit, maybe a little more. Okay, all right, because we're not fancy produced. We're just kind of us. I move the camera down myself. There's no overhead lighting. It is what it is. All right, so here's one of the stencils, and this is actually the stencil that I'm probably going to work with today. And it's your blossoms and branches, and it is a layering stencil. Isn't that beautiful? Wait till you see all the samples. Amazing, but wait till you see what we do with it. So this is one of the stencils I'm going to be using today. And then this is the big, bold floral that I was telling you about. Big, bold floral, right? Let's see if I can get it back just a little bit further. Maybe not. Big, bold floral. That reminds me of what was in my parents' house. Don't know where that picture went, have no idea, but I can see it so vividly. And of course, we've got a Have a Wonderful Day, which is a verses stamp. And then in this one, we also have one of the verses sentiments. And Art Gone Wild and Friends, they do the verses clear stamps just for us. They put them together just for me. And Art Gone Wild is also the manufacturer who does all of our stencils. Now you may know them from another brand called Stampers Anonymous. You also might not know that they do all of Tim Holtz's stencils as well. So The manufacturer of Tim's stencils is the same manufacturer of mine. Now, I'm going to start with, I think I am going to use the Blossoms, or the Dogwoods is what we're calling it. And it is a layering set, which means that there are 3 stencils in this pack. 1, 2, 3, and they layer on top of each other to give you a finished look. Does that mean you have to layer them on top of each other all the time? No, you can absolutely just use 1, 2, or 3, or 2 and 3 together. It's however you want to make them work. So you always have a main stencil, and then the next stencil that fits on top of it to add in the next layer, and then a final stencil that allows you to do all of your background. So I'm going to start with this one today, and I think for those of you who are not familiar with them, one of the things to notice is the tabs. Oh, maybe I am too close in. Let's go back just a little. The tabs are something to notice. I put tabs all the way around them, so when you are taping them down or holding them in place, you've got some place to actually hold to. And that's pretty unique to my stencils. I've done, gosh, maybe six or 8 layering stencils. So we will put all of them into the YouTube Yummies. That way you can see all of them. They are all still available. And just know that for all 3 stencils, the price is $9.99, and that is the lowest I can go. You're going to get all 3 of them for $9.99, and they are a true A2 size. Okay, so I'm going to start with this stencil. This would be your base stencil, and I'm going to put these off to the side. I'm going to grab some paper. Ooh, I did not grab a whole lot of paper. Uh-oh. 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 Do I have some paper here? No. Do I have some paper there? No. What do I have down here? Paper down here? No. Okay, well, I think I'm going to have to go run and get black and white paper. Let me see if I can see where it is. Okay, I'll be right back. 2 seconds. Oh my gosh, there was no paper on my table. That is bad, bad, bad. All right, down and paper. Okay, I feel much better now. Did you miss me? Sorry about that, folks. But we're unedited. It is what it is. I don't redo them. But now I've got paper. Life is good. Okay, so base stencil. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tape this stencil down to my paper, and I'm just going to use a full sheet just so you can see. Obviously, if this was me doing this at home and doing mass production, I would cut it down so I could get more than one out of my sheet of paper. I am going to tape it down, and I'm just using the masking tape from Sizzix. This is their maker's tape. It's pretty much a painter's tape, washi tape kind of thing. Pulls up without causing any damage to your paper. Actually, I'm going to put that one there. And I put this one here. So I am not taping down all of my tabs. And there's a reason I'm not taping down all of my tabs, and I'm going to show you that reason. And you could just leave one tab untaped, but there's a definite reason for that. Now, I have got my Hero Arts. These are called their bold inks, and they do sell them in full-size pads, so you may want to check to make sure if you already have the full-size pads. These are their minis, and they're sold in the set of 4 of the cubes for I think $9.99, which is a great price, and all the colors are complementary towards each other. They have 4 sets of bolds. That's all they have is 4 sets. These are their bold inks right there. That's it. So if you are missing any colors, or you're like, I don't need full-size pads of all of these blues, well, then the cubes are handy because they give you what you need. You get a whole bunch of colors for $10. If we were gonna do these in full size, I think they're $6.99. So $7 times 4 is $28 versus $10. And this allows you to have lots of colors without spending a lot of money. Since you may not always use moss. You may not always use moss. You might just need it every now and then. So then buy the smaller sizes and get the bang for your buck. I'm going to go ahead and start with a yellow. You're like, a yellow? Yes, I'm going to start with a yellow. I usually always start with some form of a yellow just because I like it as a base color. So I've got my blending brush. You can use a finger dauber. You can use a makeup wedge, whatever it is you use for your stenciling. I'm going to use a Couture Creations blending brush. And I know there are lots of these out on the market now. So if you've got them or if you like them, you can go hunt and find them. Just remember that they really are very, very similar to each other. So if price is an issue, don't feel like you've got to buy the $50 set. It's okay if you spend less. The brushes are very similar to each other, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed if even the Couture Creations, I think we're almost out of these and I don't have any more coming in. We'll put out what we have, but just don't feel like you're gonna get a lesser quality if you spend less money. For the most part, the brushes really are very similar and will do just about the same. They originally started as a makeup brush. Now I'm going to tap in to my yellow, and I'm just going to go off the side here just to make sure that my yellow is running clean. And it looks good, because I use this for any kind of a yellow or orangey. And I'm going to go in and I'm just going to run some yellow right over my stencil. The brushes tend to give you a softer look. Okay. So I don't want to do such a great job. I just want to get some yellow on there. Because now I'm going to come back through with, I could do a green or a brown and layer it on top of that yellow. And the reason why I try to blend at least two colors together is for depth and perception. I want to give some depth to this. I don't want it to look flat. Paper is paper. There's not much you can do. It's flat, but the image that you put down doesn't have to look flat. Now remember, I didn't cover up all of my tabs with maker's tape from Sizzix. I didn't cover up this one or that one. But I did just take a little bit of my yellow and go over the top of it. And you will see why. Now before I lift this up and move on, I wanted to do kind of a green. I think I'm going to use a green. Oh, I'm going to have to sneeze too. Wow, this is a banner YouTube. I forgot paper and I have to sneeze. Oh, we'll see. Maybe I talked myself out of it. Okay, so now I've got my brush, and this does all my greens and my blues. I don't have one of these for every single color. I have one of these for color families. Make sure that I got my green on there. Yep, my green looks good. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in, and now I'm going to lay my green right over my yellow. And I'm not necessarily trying to cover up all my yellow, because that's what's going to add to the dimension of the stencil by giving some shading and some shadowing outside of just the green. I don't want it to be flat looking. And in real life, branches have lots of colors, browns and yellows and greens and grays. Okay, and if I wanted, I could hit it with a little more yellow if it made my heart happy. And just make those colors kind of blend into each other. So I've got my first colors down. Easy peasy. Now I'm going to lift up my stencil. And you can see my maker's tape comes off Do you have to use the Sizzix Maker's tape? No. If you have washi tape that you don't particularly care for, you can absolutely use your washi tape. So there we're started. Now, why did I go ahead and stencil around some of these tabs? Well, when I move to my next layer, which is my flowers, it allows me to easily line up where the flowers go. All I have to do is line up my tabs. Now that's too low. And that's too low, and that's too low. All I have to do is get it to where it lines up. See, that's too low. Now I need to bring it back up. And maybe that's too far to the side and I need to bring it over. But it's a nice little guide for you to easily know how to line up your stencil on where it's supposed to go. And then I can bring back over my tape. And I'm just reusing the tape that I had. And down. And now I have to decide what color I want my flowers to be, because those are going to layer in on top. And I am going to choose, well, I did this combination a little earlier, but maybe I'll change it up on this combination. Okay, so I've got a pink bold ink. This is part of the, oh, well, flower petals. Isn't that apropos? Part of the flower petals combination. And I use this one for my reds and my pinks and my purples. And I go. And then I'm just gonna go in there. And I'm not trying to like get rid of all the white, make it all a solid dark color, because again, I want highs and I want lows and I want mid-tones. That's the only way you get the depth and the definition into something that's flat, is by having those shadings and those shadows. And I'm not doing anything special. I'm just with my blending brush and my ink. I'm also not giving it a whole lot of thought. I'm just getting in there and going. So I might have some that have a little more pink. I might have some that have a little less pink. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Because then I'm going to grab, and I'm going to try the orchid. I haven't tried the orchid before. I have no idea what we're going to get. Who knows? But it's only paper. It's all we're working on is some white 80-pound paper. I bet you have white paper. Okay, so dip in. I just want to get some out here. Okay. All right, let's go. And we'll add some of the purple. Ooh, that's very pretty. Ooh. And again, I'm not trying to cover up all the pink with my purple. That's not the intent. The intent is to have the purple kind of blend into the pink. Add a little bit of depth and some shadow to it. Ooh. Okay, I kind of like the purple with this. So I've gone all over, and I could continually add until I'm happy. And I think I'm happy. Very soft in its coloring. And that's where we're at. Now, let me put my yellow and my purple away and my green. Now when I pull off this layer, you can see the flowers are not all one color, but you can't really tell where one color stops and the other color starts. They all blend into each other. But I still have the background to do. With these stencils, you start, you work in reverse. Most people would think that you put this stencil down first, which is going to act as a mask, that you would do this stencil first, and then you'd come in and do all the background, and then you'd come back and add the two stencils that I've already used. But that's not the case at all. You work in reverse. Your masking stencil is actually the very, very last stencil that you use. So I'm going to put it on there, and looky, you can see it lines up just perfectly. And again, I'm very thankful and grateful that my stencils are manufactured by Arc on Wild and Friends, and they really are my friends. And it's not just the name of their company, and they are the same who manufacture all of Tim Holtz's stencils. So I'm thankful that I get the opportunity to work with such a fine company like that. So I'm going to tape them down. I've lined up. Well, now it's easy because you're going to line up everything that's been inked, but you also have your little tabs to remember that you've got that white space there reminding you that you just line it up right there. Put down my maker's tape. And away we go. Away we go. Now, what color do we want for the background? Do we want it to be blue? Do we want yellow and blue? What color makes our heart happy? Do we want to go light to dark in our blue? We could do that. We could probably even do that with just one ink of blue. What if we try one ink of blue and see what we get? Okay, so turn it around so I'm top to bottom. So I've got blue there. And I'm literally just gonna, I'm tapping off because I don't want too much of my blue. I want it to kind of be a little soft. Oh, did I pull that one out? I sure did. Zoop. I want a soft blue. Wow, I really pulled that one out again. Soft blue. Soft, soft, soft. Maybe I should do both of them at the top. Oh, there it is. Maybe I should just do it all the way across to make sure that it doesn't come out. Zoop. And let's keep going. Soft blues. And where that mask is, the blue ink is not touching, allowing me to do the background. So you want to do the background last with these stencils, which sounds so counterintuitive of what you would think you would do. All right, so I'm going to leave it like this because I don't necessarily want it to be totally, I don't want all my white to be gone, and I do like my highs and my lows. And again, kind of looks like a hot mess. But pull my maker's tape off, I'm going to save that piece. And look at what we've created. Now, because you've got all of this around it, it kind of looks messy, but you have to give everything its opportunity. So if I take it and I go ahead and cut it out, all of a sudden the mess that was there goes away. And what you're left with is just a beautiful stenciled image. Done with 3 stencils to give you the opportunity to play with color in specific areas. Now, I could do it this way. I could have my tree going this way. I could have my tree going that way. But what makes your heart happy? And you know what? This is, I got Sizzix paper right there. Ooh. What do we think of that? That looks good. Sizzix paper here from last YouTube. I wonder what the green would look like. You think it's too green? So now it's up to you to create what you want out of it. And could I have done more in the background? Absolutely I could have. But I'm happy with it. So do I want it that way? How do you want to mat this on your scrapbook page, your layout? Can you use this in layouts? Of course you can use stencils in layouts. Absolutely, it's just another way to make an embellishment. Now, if you buy 12 by 12 paper, and that 12 by 12 paper has little pictures, maybe sometimes they have 9 squares of pictures, and sometimes they have 12 squares of pictures. If you buy that, why wouldn't, this is the same thing. You're just making it, and you're able to make it to the colors that you need. For those of you who scrapbook, think about the embellishments you use and see if you have the tools to make them yourselves. So pretty. And like I said, I could put it this way. I could put it this way. What way you want your tree to go? How do you want your branches to go? It's up to you. You make your heart happy. But then we need to take it one step further. And before I do that, I'm gonna switch gears for just a second. Put that over there. Well, maybe I should tape it down. Do you think I should tape it down? I probably should. Let's just tape it down super fast. That way it's done. I'm gonna switch gears for just a second and bring out the Versus stamps. Those of you who are new to crafting, you can do this, I promise you. All right, there, matted. I feel better about it. Okay, so before I move on to the next thing I want to do with the stencil, I want to bring out the Versus stamps. And like I said, these Versus is a company, it's a brand from Arc on Wild and Friends. The brands that Arc on Wild and Friends manufactures is Versus, Arc on Wild, Inky Antics, Darcy's, Stampers Anonymous, I think I'm forgetting one, Northwoods. So all of those brands are manufactured by one company. And thankfully, they put together 2 sets for me every time I do a release of Simply Defined Kaleidoscope stencils. And these are taken from the wood mount stamps that Versus is known for. So we pull together a bunch of sentiments and then put them into a cling set or a clear set so that it is affordable. So you get so many more versus one wood mount stamp. And I just think they're beautiful. Have a wonderful day. Thinking thoughts of you. We always try to find stamps that will work well with the stencils that I bring out and have some kind of sentiment. So we really like them. I hope you do too. But I want to play with them first to show some of you who may have never seen embossing before. So I'm going to use a little bit of black. And I'm going to use a little bit of white. Now that I have white paper. Oops. Okay. So these stamps, and gosh, which one do I want to play with? The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. I think that's the one I'm going to go with right now. These stamps are clear. They stick to a clear block. You use them again and again and again. So they're going to cling onto this clear block, and then they're going to pull off this clear block, and then they're going to cling onto this clear block, and then they're going to pull off the clear block. Once you buy a stamp set, it's yours forever. If you treat it well and take care of it, you should have it forever. And the Versa stamps are the same. If you take care of them, they're very hardy. You just have to, wipe them down when you're done. Then you're going to have them forever. Now, this is a brand new stamp, so I haven't stamped with it before. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp off quickly. And what does stamp off means? That means I'm going to ink it up. And instead of putting it under some warm water with a little scrubby, there's sometimes a little film left on here from the manufacturing process. So for me, I'm just going to stamp that film off. And I'll ink it up again. And I'm just trying to stamp that residue off. And you know when it's done because your stamp will be a beautiful image. And I think that's pretty good. You don't have to do many of them, but you do have to do it. Or you can take not a wet wipey, but some dishwashing, non-abrasive dishwashing soap and go over it. You just want something that's gonna get that little residue off, and stamping off will do that for you. Now, bold inks, like a lot of the Hero Arts inks, are going to stain your stamps. I'm okay with my stamp being stained. It's always going to be that blue. It's always going to have that blue. Does that mean every time I stamp with it, that blue is going to come off? No, not at all. In fact, once I've cleaned it, it's good to go with the next color. Some people actually like to put the Black India ink on their stamps because then they can read what it says when you're looking at it while you're stamping. So don't be worried if your stamp is stained. It's not going to hurt it any, nor is it going to harm your project. Not at all. So you just saw me stamp real quick. This time I'm going to use Versamark. What's Versamark? It's a watermark and embossing medium. So it's a wet medium. It comes in the form of a stamp pad. It also comes in the form of a marker, and a full-size pad, which is never this dirty. Yours is going to come beautiful. Mine has been used and loved, and I refuse to get rid of it. So yours will be all nice and pristine and clean. But if it ends up looking like this, don't throw it away. It still works great. So Versamark allows you to ink up a stamp and then use embossing powder with it. So if I put Versamark on here, just like I had put the ink on from my cube to stamp with it, put a little bit of Versamark, bring over my paper. I'm on a gush mat. So a gush mat is something that has got, it's got some gush to it, but it's not so squishy, nor is it a mouse pad. With a stamp, when you stamp on a hard surface, sometimes it's hard to get a good impression because there's no place for the paper and the stamp to sink into each other. When you're on a gush mat, easy peasy. It gives you the opportunity to push into that paper and make good contact because it's sinking down a little bit into that gush. So I'm going to do here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. Let's make sure. Does that work? Oh, I guess so. We'll see. And let's ink it up again. Now my Versamark transferred a little bit of the blue, but I'm okay because I'm going to be using embossing powder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and up. That looks good. Okay, and then let's do the black. So Versamark can also be used as a watermark for an image, which means I could stamp this on my black paper and not put anything on top of it at all, and it would dry with just a little bit of a watermark to it. See that? Can you see it? Versamark is clear, so you're never going to go, oh yeah, there it is, I see it. But when you're making a background and you have a background stamp, to stamp on colored paper gives you a beautiful tone on tone. In fact, I can stamp this on a tone on tone paper. Give you an idea. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, up. Okay, those look good. If I wanted to take this stamp, and let's say this said happy birthday, and I wanted to run happy birthday all the way across my paper because I wanted to make my own background, that's what you can use Versamark for as well. It'll leave a watermark behind. So it's very subtle, but it allows you to make beautiful backgrounds for just about anything. Again, if you're a scrapbooker and you want to make mats for your image, your pictures, you could take a beautiful background stamp and stamp with Versamark on the color paper you need, and it will just leave a faint image of the stamp behind. And it'll be tone on tone, so you know it's going to match. Really, really easy to do. Now, I'm going to play with some embossing powder. So maybe I cut these into 2, so I use 2 different embossing powders. What's an embossing powder? Well, it's kind of like a plastic that melts. It feels like a powder and it looks like a powder, but when you heat it to the right temperature, it's going to melt and it's going to become a solid. So for those of you who have never seen embossing powder before, poof, now you can see the writing. Where I stamped with that Versamark, now you can see the writing because that powder is sticking to that Versamark medium, that ink, so to speak. And then I have my other one. Let's do my other one in a different color. And let's do my other one maybe in a white. Yep, let's do it in a white. And you're like, you're gonna do white on white? Sure, why not? And I'm a dumper. So I just take a bunch of it and dump it right down. Let it cover the whole thing. Give a little tap, tap, tap. And set it off to the side. And then all of this is going to go right back into my jar. Embossing powder can last you a really long time. It's one of those tools that you buy a color and you have it for a long time. But then I have the black. So let's bring the black over and let's cut it in half. And you're like, oh my gosh, but how long does that Versamark stay wet? Well, quite some time. That's the point of it, is to stay wet long enough for you to get your embossing powder onto it. There it is. And put all of that back. And then the last one, right here, we'll do in gold. Ooh. All right, so let's put all my gold back. Now, you know what? I'm going to cut this one off and show you. We'll just do this one in gold too, since it's right here. Okay. And put it all back. Now, you may be looking at these going, they don't look very spectacular at all. I mean, that doesn't look very goldy, does it? Neither does that. And the white, oh, Stacy, don't put your scissors on top of them. The white, you can barely see it all. Or this is copper. Kind of just looks like a brown. The thing about embossing powder is it's a powder until you heat it up. It will remain a powder until you heat it up. And to heat it up, you need a heat tool, not a hair dryer. That won't work. It's not going to get hot enough. For today, I'm going to go ahead and use my Sizzix tool, my heat tool from Ellison. This is the Sizzix heat tool, and I was very, very skeptical for a very long time of a cylinder tool because they get very, very hot. This one happens to work really nicely, and it's got 2 speeds. Can you use your spouse's for paint, to scrape off paint? Oh my goodness, you're gonna burn your paper. You need to be so careful with that. You may eventually get to be so good at embossing that you know exactly how long to leave that Wagner heat tool on there before your paper goes poof. Ellison Sizzix has put together a really nice and affordable heat tool, as well as the Ranger heat tool. I just know that Ranger, I don't know that there's enough stock around lately of Ranger product right now, and Sizzix has made sure we have plenty of these to supply you at a phenomenal price. So, how does this work? Well, 2 speeds. The Ranger tool is definitely quieter than this, and but the Ranger tool will take you longer. So if I take it on my high speed and put it right down, in almost no time, I've taken it from a powder to a solid. Now, that looks gold. So what happens down here? What about all of this? Well, it hasn't had enough heat to melt it into a solid. And I know it sounds like a hair dryer, but a hair dryer is not going to work, nor can you use this to dry your hair. You will singe your hair if you do that. And if I accidentally touch this, I just wiped away the powder. So until you add that heat to change it, I could just accidentally, oh no, and now I have to do it all over again. Now that's not a big deal. You have lots of embossing powder and you have lots of paper. So once you have the stamps, you're good to go. Now I did these 4 over here, and while that doesn't look very black now, when I'm done with it, it will. Okay, can you see the difference in the color? This has been heat set. This is still a powder. Can you see the difference there? It's pretty dramatic. And once the powder turns to a solid, it dries very quickly and it has a raised feel to it, just like a formal invitation embossing would. If you had a wedding invitation and you can feel that ink that's raised on top of the paper, that's what you get here. Done. It's got a slight gloss look to it, and I am using detailed embossing powder. That is so super important. Detailed embossing powder is the embossing powder that is ground so fine that it will hold to the finest detail of a stamp. Regular embossing powder will not. The granules are a little bit chunkier. To the unaided eye, I get it, it all looks the same, but believe me, it is not. Detailed embossing powder is what we go to most of the time. Detailed embossing powder will get the fine detail, but you can also use it when you're doing something with fat lines. Regular embossing powder, you can't get the detailed lines with. So we really love our detailed embossing powder. Okay, look at the difference here. So for those of you who have never seen embossing before, this is an aha moment. And it's dry. And you can kind of hear it, the ridges, because it's sitting on top of the paper. This hasn't been had enough heat added to it yet to melt it. So while it is a powder, it's made of a plastic material. And if I had done this in a standard embossing powder, you would not be able to read it because the granules are thicker and bigger, and if they're bigger, they're going to spread out more. So a detailed embossing powder is what allows you to do beautiful fine stamps and sentiments and anything that's got a fine line. So there's the copper. Isn't that pretty? This hasn't been done yet. And once it cools down, once the paper's cool to touch, so is the embossing powder. Just beautiful and elegant. So I've done black and copper and gold, but then there's the white, right? All right, let's bring the white over. Now the white's a little harder to see that it's changed because obviously it's white on white. But if you get just the right angle on it, you can see where that gloss is, that high gloss. That's the words versus over here where it's still dull and has that sort of that bluey look to it. You can see that the white has no blue look over here because embossing powder's opaque. Opaque. I always have trouble saying that word. Alrighty. Oh, nope, I can tell. I can see down here. It still is a little blue. Still a little, it's dark. It's not shiny. It doesn't have that gloss coming off of it. That means I did not heat that enough. And poof, just like that, done. So, why would I do white on white? Well, again, for those of you who have never seen embossing before, ooh, It's pretty. What if I took my pink and I added color to it. Now I'm going fast just to try and get it done. Just so you can see that an embossing powder will act as a resist. Oh, somebody's alarm. I hope it's not mine. I've never had a car with an alarm in it before. We have a Ford Flex, so because Michael needs it now after the stroke, and it has an alarm, and I've never had that before. And add a little red. Well, if it's mine, hopefully somebody goes down and turns it off. Oh, good. Yay. Okay, well, I've got enough ink on there. Take a paper towel. Rub off. And my embossing comes through. So you can totally use it as a resist. I mean, I could have literally taken this and gone all over it. And that embossing isn't going to absorb that ink. That is certainly dramatic. But then I take my paper towel and right over the top, just wipe it off. And instant presto, there's your embossing. Right? So those who have never seen embossing before, you've got the super fast 1, 2, 3 ABCs of what embossing powder does and how it works and what you can do with it. It is one of the longest and oldest tools to crafters. We've been using embossing powders for years and years and years and years, and yet it stays tried and true and never fails to disappoint. How often can you say that about a product that has been around for years, 30 years, and yet still holds up and works beautifully today? Don't we wish everything was like that? So, how am I going to use it in today's class with my stencils? Well, let's get another piece of white paper and let's start again. And again, I'm going to start with my branches and I'm going to tape. I always forget to I can tell you that's not it, but close enough. Just cut me a big old piece and then fold it down onto itself. That way I know where I'm at. Okay, so how about one there and one there and one here. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the same thing. Find my yellow. Let's do some yellow. I'm going to go super fast because we've already done this. And just add some of my yellow in there. Not trying to be too specific, or even think about it too much. I do way better at crafting and creating when I don't really think. If you tell that to my husband, that's our secret. I'll never hear the end of it. Okay, I've got some yellow on there, and then let's go back and let's grab my green. I have no idea. Let's try 2 greens. Let's try the moss, and I don't know if this is going to be too bright of a green, but all we can do is try. It's only paper, right? Ooh, that's a pretty green. Oh, maybe I don't even use the moss. That's a bright, happy green. And I'm just going to go in right over the yellow. And again, the reason I put the yellow down was so that I had some shading and some shadow, and that green is blending into the yellow. I'm not trying to cover all the yellow. I'm just trying to give some definition to a flat piece of paper. And remember, I want to go outside a little bit so I have those tab lines. That makes it easy for me to line everything up. Oh, pretty color. Kimberly from Hero Arts is like, yeah, I know. Hello, Stacy. I think I'm good. I think I'm good. So I didn't cover up all the yellow. There's still yellow coming through. I did my tabs so I know where to line up, easy peasy. Lift this up. And you can see that there's some yellow coming through, just to add a little bit of dimension. And maybe well, no, these are got. Then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to lay down my, nope, not that one. I'm going to lay down my flowers. Line it up so that my tabs are covering the open area so that you don't see any white. I need them to line up, and then I can tape them down. Then I know I'm in the place I'm supposed to be. Piece of my tape. Again, if you've got washi tape that you're not using, whoop, 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 whoop. Back up. Okay, down I go. And I can put that one there. And now let's take let's do some yellow and some red. That red was pretty. So my yellow. And again, I'm just gonna get it in there. Oh, it still has some of my older color on it, but that's okay. I'm just gonna get it in there. Not really give it some thought. Just want some color in that white space. Always start with your lightest color, because if I had put my red down first, when I go back to add my yellow, the red is the more dominant color, so the yellow is just going to absorb right into the red, and you're not going to see it. You always want to start with your lightest colors first when building color, and that's what we're doing. We're just building some color. Okay, I think that's good. Let's try some red. And this is really red. Hello, red. And I'm not trying to cover that yellow. I'm trying to add to it. I'm trying to blend into it. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, let's take it off. Ooh, it's coming out pretty, right? Pretty, pretty, pretty. Could have done brown branches. That would have been pretty with those colors too. See, and they're totally different. Totally different than that. Now let's do our mask over the top, which is the last thing we do. And because I've got my tab outlines, I've got a place to add my tape and an easy way of lining everything up. Okay. And down. Now for this one, I might go ahead and put my tape on all of my tabs. And, oh, Stacy, I pulled too hard. Line it up again. And I might put my tape on all of my tabs because I'm going to be doing quite a bit of the background. And down. And I'm going to pull another piece for down at the bottom before I move it by accident. Well, I just did. Up, up, up. Up, up, up. Okay, there we go. And down, down, down. There we go. And then just a quick one off to the side and a quick one off to the side. And I think that'll work. All right, so now I've got it all in place and I'm ready to go. And I'm gonna take some of my yellow. And I think I'm gonna do a little top yellow. And just soft, 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 soft. I want a soft, soft, soft yellow at the top. Soft, soft, soft. Soft, soft, soft. And then maybe I want to grab some of my blue. And go blue, blue, blue. Soft, soft, soft. So now I'm blending colors as my background. I'm not just keeping it blue. I've blended my colors and I'm using my yellow and my pretty blue. And I can get it as dark as I want. And I can add more yellow back in to where the blend is. So I'm here right now. And I can add more yellow in to blend better if I want to. And really blend that yellow into the blue. So you have a really nice gradation of color going down. And if it made my heart happy, I could go really dark on the bottom here. But then what are we going to do with it? I mean, it's very pretty, I'm sure. I hope. I shouldn't be so confident. Oh, it is. It's very pretty. But what are we going to do with it? That's going to elevate it. That's going to make it more than what it is right now. That's where the embossing powder comes in. Because we have got so many different masks to play with, so many different stencils to play with, I have the opportunity to lay my stencil right back down, tape it up, I know I use a lot of the tape. I'm a little excessive in the tape department. Okay. A little on each side. And we now all taped down, ready to go. We now can take that Versamark and stencil over the entire thing. Just gonna go back and forth over the entire stencil. Kind of walk it all over. Make sure that it's all inked up really well. And then I can kind of put it in the light and see if I've missed any place. It looks pretty good. Now what do? Well, I've used the copper and I've used the white and I've used the gold and I've used the black, but this one I haven't used is clear. This is a clear detailed embossing powder, completely clear. What if I throw that? Well, let's take my stencil off first. Okay, important. You need to take the stencil off before you put your embossing powder down. Otherwise, you're going to have embossing powder stick all the way to your stencil. If that is the only note you take today, that is an important note to take. You need to take your stencil off before you throw your embossing powder down. I might be able to use these again, so I'll put those off to the side and grab them if I want to do another. Okay, so now I put my embossing powder, bring over my little handmade, let it walk on down. I'm just letting the embossing powder walk on down. And then I want to give it a nice little tap. Get all the excess off. And let's see what happens. So I'm going to put this back in there. Move it over to the side. Bring over my heat tool. And let's see what we get. Okay, so what I want you to see is where the embossing powder was, where I put the embossing powder, it has now got this beautiful sheen. But my flowers and my branches do not. They have a matte finish that is a complete contrast against that beautiful gloss finish of the embossing powder. Let's go. And you can see it turn. You'll see it go from a powder to a gloss. Okay. You can also see where I missed. If you look in here, right in here, it's dull. There's no shine to it. Shine all the way around. That means I didn't heat it enough there, so I just go back in and heat it till it turns. Oh, look at that. That is very cool, where you've got matte for your image, but a gloss behind you. And what if this gloss wasn't glossy enough for you? What if you wanted it even more glossy? Well, same thing. We just go back in. It's dry. Once my paper's dry, I'm dry here. I go back in, I line it up again. I put my tape back down. Now some of you are going to say, well, why don't you just use an ultra fine embossing or an ultra thick embossing powder to do this? Because ultra thick is very chunky and you have the opportunity when using it for it to melt and spread underneath the stencil. I don't want my embossing powder, my clear embossing powder, to touch my flowers or my branches. But I want it to be even a more gloss, even a higher gloss, double emboss. You just come back and wash, rinse, and repeat. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my Versamark all over. I think I've got it all over. I'm going to take off my stencil so that I do not end up getting embossing powder all over my stencil. And you're saying, but how do you clean the stencil? Oh, a baby wipe. Put it some in your sink. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put this down. I'm gonna let it walk all the way down my image. See how gravity's doing the work for you? I'm gonna give a good tap. See if I missed anywhere. Put all of this back in. And heat. And now it's going to be even a heavier gloss, a thicker gloss. It is almost gonna have almost like a porcelain finish to it. Look at that. There's no pitting, there's no bubbles. I could go back and I could do a third. The thicker you make that embossing as the background, the more defined your flowers and your branches are going to be. And you're just using a detailed embossing powder. Nope, I missed a spot. Can you see right there? I missed that spot. Right there. Watch. Now I didn't miss it. Look at the gloss. It's beautiful. And chances are you already own a clear, detailed embossing powder, and you really do want to use the detail because you don't want those grains of the embossing powder to go underneath the stencil. You're trying to have that contrast between the matte and the gloss. Right? You can do this. I didn't do anything that was hard, anything that took any real expertise at all. You can do this. But what if we brought this one back? And instead of doing the background, what if I wanted to do the flowers? Okay, let's line them up. I've already cut it, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so I'm gonna put it here in hopes that I can tape it down to a bigger piece of paper so it doesn't move. What if I wanted those flowers to be the only thing that's embossed on this whole card? How would I do that? Well, you're going to have a couple options. Sizzix should send me a boatload of this tape. The way I go through it. That's kind of funny, but please, Sizzix, don't send me any of it. That way I can use it without feeling like I have to tell people that you sent it to me for free. Don't send me any. Okay, I've got it taped down. Now, what if I just wanted to use, and I just wanted to emboss those flowers? Could I do that? Yes. Could I take this and go over the top of it? Yes. But also, I can use the marker. Oh, this is a Versamark. It's the same product, the same wetness, the same medium, the same ink, if per se, because it's not really an ink. That what's in this is in this. So if I wanted to, because this has got a dual tip. Look at it's got that little tip right there, which lets you get into really fine areas. So I could take that and I could just take this little pen and color in my stencil. in those little fine areas, as opposed to trying to get that ink pad in all of the area that I need. Sometimes when you're doing a fine area like this, that's not so big, that background was big, so using the stamp or the pad worked, but I'm trying to get into detail area. So using the Versamark is much easier for me. I have control over where I put it. It doesn't get all over my stencil. If it's a tiny area, I can go in there with the bullet point and get in there. Because all I want to do are my flowers. All right, I'm going to do part of it and I'm going to leave part of it. And then you can see the difference between. I think I got all of these, right? I did all of these. Okay, so I'm going to take my stencil off because that's the most important thing. Otherwise, you end up getting embossing powder all over your stencil. I'm going to grab my little funnel. I'm going to grab my clear, make sure it's clear because the clear and the white look identical. I'm going to put a little bit over. Okay, you can see where the embossing powder is, my colors are kind of muted versus over here where I didn't put any embossing powder. So here I put the Versamark and the embossing powder, but I didn't do it here, just so you can see the difference for reference. I'm going to put this all back in my little jar. And I'm going to bring over my heat tool. Okay, so now you can see my flowers have got the glaze on them and the gloss on them, but not on this side. Now my background is just the same and my branches are just the same, but now my flowers have got the beautiful gloss finish on them. And then I could come back and finish all of these. If I had wanted to, I could have inked this. I could go back, I could have done my branches and had them embossed. Because you've got all the layers, you have the availability to do just accents. Look how pretty that is. It's not glittered, it's not blinged, but it catches your attention because it's got the gloss. Or you could do the entire background and leave the branches and the flowers in the matte to gain the most impact from the contrast of them. It's the contrast that makes it so wonderful. You have options. These stencils give you options because it's not just one stencil that you're working with. You couldn't do these if you just had the one stencil. You need the three of them to make it complete and to give you the most opportunity to be creative. Maybe you do. Maybe you start out, gosh, I used it. Maybe you start out just like this. Maybe you start out with just stenciling with just ink, and that's all you do. And then maybe you grow into well, maybe I'll give that one a try and try some of the flowers. Or maybe I'll do the branches. Instead of laying down the flower stencil, if I wanted to do the branches, I would have laid down the branch stencil and come in here with my Versamark pen and colored all of that in. Maybe that's where you go. You start with just coloring, and then maybe you add a little embossing powder here and there just to make it spark. And then you finally say, I'm gonna try the background and see what happens. They're beautiful, they're easy, it's paper. Who would ever think that this is paper? You mat this, you frame that, nobody is ever going to realize that that is paper. 80-pound cardstock. You can do this. Here, I did this one earlier, I was playing. And look at the contrast in the colors. Very soft, very light, deep and rich. Same colors, just how I layered them, how light I put it on. All right, so you see what embossing powder can do for you. And the Versus stamps were put together. We picked the sentiments that we felt would work best with all of my layering stencils. And I don't know if I have 6 or if I have 8 of them. Gosh, I just don't remember. But we'll put them all in the YouTube Yummies. They cannot go any lower than $9.99. I am so sorry, but for 3 stencils that layer, and you can use them individually. Wait till you see a sample done with just this. Oh, stunning! You can use them individually, you can use them together. Maybe you just need branches. It's up to you. But for $9.99, you get all 3, and these are exclusive because this is mine. These are my designs. So if you love them, unfortunately, you do have to get them through us. However, if you still have a local retailer, a local mom and pop shop, they may have plenty of Versamark, and they may have the Stampendous detailed embossing powder. And we've only used Stampendous today. Love their detailed embossing powder. They may have some of the Hero Arts inks. If you've got a local independent retailer and they've got the product like this, go get it from them. Yes, shop with your local independent. Keep that store in business. And then if you love the stencils, well, those you'll get from us. But is it gonna break my heart or hurt me in any way if you shop at a local mom and pop? No, it will make me happy to know that you're dropping a little bit of your crafty budget here, and a little bit of it here, and a little bit of it there. That would make my heart happy. Okay. I am going to bring over what's on sale. So we've got my check stock. We've got plenty of the Sizzix Maker's Tape that we can put on a YouTube Yummy for you. I've got plenty of the heat tools that we can put on a YouTube Yummy for you, and we're doing this one at 30% off. So that's a great value for the heat tool. Then we've got the embossing powder from Stampendous. There's actually 6 colors, not 5. So there's a white, a copper, a gold, a clear, a silver, and a black. These are all the detailed embossing powders that they do. And we'll have these all on sale and in I Want It All if you need them, or you just buy the ones that make your heart happy. They also have an Embossing Powders Basic that we will put on sale for you. So this is just little vials of all of their most popular basic embossing powders. So you're going to get all of the details, but you're also going to get some with some glitter in it, and you're going to get some with some iridescence in it. And if you don't have any embossing powders, this is a really nice way to start because it lets you play with a lot of different colors and a lot of different thicknesses of the embossing powder. The grains are going to be at different weights. They're going to be heavier, and that way you can really see what works for you, and then you can go back and you can buy the full size when you run out. So this is a nice sampler kit. And then I have the Hero Hues for you. There's only 4 of the bolds in cubes. We'll do an I Want It All, but we'll also have open stock for you. Beautiful colors, and blend like a dream, but bold. They're bold colors, and I liked the boldness of them. And then we've got the Versamark. I've got the small, and I've got the pen. Well, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. We'll just do all 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, all on a YouTube Yummy. That makes more sense. And last but not least, I have got the Versus stamps, 2 stamp sets, brand new, exclusive to us, and I've got the 2 layering stencil sets that are my design, Simply Defined. $9.99. Can't do any better than that on these. So now let's get to the samples, because the samples are what are so pretty. Okay, so I showed you these 2 in the beginning. I can't remember. No, that isn't the one I did. I did one of these when I was QCing them. I don't know which one I did, but I did something. And this, done with a watercolor look to it. And then let's bring them on over. Here you've got a super soft, beautiful look with stamped on vellum for your Versus sentiment. How pretty is that? And then Thinking Thoughts of You. I want to go this way. Thinking Thoughts of You. Done with just one of the stencils out of the blossoms. Oops. And then here, how soft and beautiful is this in the grays with the stamped sentiment right on it. And here, again, one of the Versus stamps. And a very monochromatic looking card, but just beautiful. Here we go. And we've embossed just on one of the layers of the flowers and the leaves. Well, I don't even know if we did the leaves. No, we didn't, just on some of the flower. Look at how that just pops. And have a wonderful day as part of the Versus stamp set. But when you move it, you can't help but look at it because the contrast between the matte finish and the gloss finish. Nope, okay. And look at the contrast of colors there. So vivid. And here we have another wonderful day. And this one has no embossing at all on it. And here we've got a black and white. How elegant is that and striking? And then your sentiment. And then here, we've embossed the back and part of the flowers. Oh, and it's going to have something for me to show you on the inside. How beautiful is that? And then on the inside. Girls did a beautiful job. Again, striking. So you've got sentiment here, and then they're telling me to open it, and then it finishes there. And remember I told you there would be one that just used the flowers without the branches at all. Here it is. And again, the sentiment is verses. And then this one was headed for the trash can. This was Doris's I don't like it. And Claire said, no way, Jose, girlfriend, you have to finish it. Well, actually, Claire said, Stacy, don't you think Doris has to finish that card? Because she's about to throw that piece away. And I said, absolutely, she has to finish that card. And look at how great it is. And it starts with a best friend and the balance of the sentiment. Nice try, Doris. And here we embossed the flowers. We used a colored embossing powder to do the flowers. Look at that. There's so many ways to use that embossing powder. Because you've got the marker to go in and just add the Versamark where you want it. A good friend knows all your stories. A best friend helps you write them. Isn't that the truth? And another watercolor one Claire did. Claire wasn't sure she liked him, and I said, oh, Claire, it's beautiful. And then we open it, and your sentiment. They're beautiful. And easy. And here we've embossed here on vellum, and they're telling me to open it. And there's the rest of the sentiment. So, you can do this. I know you can. I have every confidence in you that you can make this your own. If you're a beginning crafter, if you're an experienced crafter, you've got the opportunity to just play because it's only paper. All right, I'm gonna tilt up. Oh, I'm gonna tilt back, way back. Way back. Okay, and I'm gonna say, hey everybody, it's me, Stacy, Scrapbooking Made Simple, scrapbookingmadesimple.com. Shop local if you can. Shop with us if you want to. Shop with us if you love the stencils. And again, I'll put all of my stencils in the YouTube Yummies. They're $9.99, that's their regular price. Everything else in the YouTube Yummies category that I showed you today, the inks and the Versamark and the Sizzix products and the Versa stamps, those will all be on a YouTube Yummy. Remember, curbside delivery is absolutely wonderful. We love you for doing it. And you shop from the YouTube Yummies category, email your order over to curbside at scrapbookingmadesimple.com. If you go to our homepage on our website, there's instructions on how to send us your curbside order. All right, you guys, it's me, Stacy. Scrapbooking Made Simple, scrapbookingmadesimple.com, and I will see you all next week. Yes, next week. Gosh, Christmas is so close, but I will see you all next week. Have a wonderful week. Stay safe and play some games with your family. Go ahead, grab a whole bunch of people and try and play Bang. You see how hard it is sometimes, and it just brings a whole lot of giggles and fun. Good, honest, clean fun. All right, you guys, I'll see you later. Bye.